The morning my parents called a family meeting over pot roast and green bean casserole, I already knew something was wrong. My mother only makes pot roast when she needs something. I almost didn't go. I'd been telling myself for months that I needed to stop showing up every Sunday like a good little soldier, sitting at that table, absorbing whatever new crisis my family had decided was somehow my responsibility. But old habits are hard to break, and guilt is a powerful thing when your mother has spent 31 years perfecting it. So I drove the 20 minutes to their house in Cloverdale, parked behind my brother's truck, which I noticed immediately, because he wasn't supposed to be there, and walked in through the side door the way I always have. The smell hit me first. Pot roast. I stood in the entryway for a second longer than necessary. My name is June. I'm 31 years old. I'm a licensed occupational therapist. I did own, a 2-bedroom condo in Hartwell. And for most of my adult life, I have been the person in my family that everyone quietly assumes will figure it out. My brother's name is Derek. He is 28. He has never, not once in his adult life, figured anything out on his own. I want to be fair when I talk about Derek, because I know how these stories can go. He makes someone into a cartoon villain and people stop believing you. Derek is not a villain. He is something almost harder to deal with. A genuinely likable person who has simply never been asked to be responsible for anything. Because I was always there to soften the landing. When he dropped out of community college, I helped him research trade programs. When he got his first apartment and blew his security deposit, I covered it. When he had that thing with his car and his insurance lapsed, I paid the fine. Small things, a lot of them. The kind of things that don't feel like a pattern until you zoom out and see the whole picture. He's been working, when I say working, I mean loosely, at a sporting goods warehouse for the past 2 years. Or he was until 6 weeks ago. I didn't know he'd been fired. Nobody told me. That's the thing I keep coming back to. Nobody told me he'd lost his job. Not my mother, not my father, not Derek himself. I found out the way you find out about everything in my family, secondhand, through implication, at a dinner table where the pot roast is already on the table and the door is already behind you. I sat down. My father was at the head of the table. My mother across from me, Derek to my right. He was staring at his plate. My mother was smiling in that particular way. She smiles when she is about to ask for something large and has already decided she deserves it. "We're so glad you came," she said. Which is how she begins sentences that end with me owing someone something. My father cleared his throat. He's a man of very few words, my father. Which in my experience means that when he does speak, it lands harder than it should. "Derek has some things going on," he said. I looked at Derek. Derek looked at the green beans. "He was let go," my mother said. "From the warehouse, 3 weeks ago." 6 weeks, I found out later. But okay. "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, and I meant it. Losing a job is genuinely awful regardless of the circumstances. "What are you thinking about doing next?" And here is where it turned. Here is where the pot roast started to make sense. My mother folded her hands on the table. She does this when she's about to make a pronouncement and said, "We were thinking you could help him with his rent while he gets back on his feet." I heard the words. I processed them individually. Help. Him. Rent. Back on his feet. "How much is his rent?" I asked, because I needed a number to attach to the absurdity. $1,400 a month, Derek said, still looking at the table. I set my fork down. $1,400 a month. For a 1-bedroom apartment that Derek chose, that Derek signed the lease on, that Derek is responsible for. $1,400 that my parents were now, over pot roast, suggesting I simply absorb into my own budget until further notice. "That's a significant ask," I said carefully. "You're doing well," my mother said. "You have your job, your place. Derek is family." And there it was. You're doing well. Derek is family. As though my stability was a resource to be redistributed rather than something I had built over 8 years of student loans and night shifts and saying no to things I wanted, so I could have a financial cushion. As though Derek being family meant that his choices were my bill. "How long are we talking?" I asked. My father shrugged. "However long he needs. No timeline. No plan. No expectation that Derek himself had any particular role in solving this problem beyond existing in his apartment and waiting for money to appear." I looked at my brother. "Derek, have you applied anywhere?" "I've been looking around," he said. looking around. At 28. I thought about what to say. I thought about all the times I had said the soft version of things in this house and watched it change nothing. I thought about the 4 weekends I had recently spent quietly, methodically, preparing for something that no one at this table knew was coming. I appreciate you telling me, I said. Let me think about it. My mother looked satisfied. That was her mistake. Let me back up. 3 months before that Sunday dinner, I had made a decision. It wasn't dramatic, at least not at the time. It felt more like finally exhaling after holding your breath so long you'd forgotten you were doing it. I had accepted a position at a rehabilitation center in Ashford, which is 412 miles away from Cloverdale. Better pay, better hours, and, I want to be honest, a clean start. I had wanted out of this city for a long time, and this was the door opening. I put my condo on the market in February. By March I had an offer. By April I had accepted it, signed the paperwork, and was in the middle of coordinating my move-out date. My closing was in 11 days from that Sunday dinner. Nobody in my family knew any of this. This was not an accident. I had learned, over 31 years, that information shared in my family does not stay with the person you shared it with. It becomes a group project. It gets discussed, picked apart, and eventually weaponized into a reason why you should do something differently, usually something that benefits someone else. So, I kept my mouth closed. I told my 2 closest friends. I told my workplace. I told no one in Cloverdale. And when my mother folded her hands over that pot roast and told me my brother's rent was now my concern, I was 11 days from no longer having a fixed address in the state. I did not say any of this at dinner. I said, let me think about it. And I meant something very different than what she heard. The following Sunday, the week before my closing, my phone started ringing at 9 in the morning. My mother. I let it go to voicemail. She called again. And again. I finally picked up on the 4th call. Have you thought about what we discussed? She asked. No greeting. No how are you? I've thought about it, I said. And? I was standing in my kitchen, which was half packed, boxes along the wall. The coffee maker was still out because I refused to pack it until the last possible moment. I remember looking at it while I talked. I don't think I can commit to that, I said. The silence on the other end was the particular silence of someone recalibrating. June. Her voice had shifted. Derek cannot lose that apartment. He's already behind. Already behind, meaning he hadn't paid rent since he lost the job, which I also had not been told. How behind? I asked. A pause. 2 months. So $2,800 behind, with a 3rd month coming in 2 weeks. And the solution my parents had landed on apparently was me. Mom, I said, I need to tell you something. What? My condo sold. I'm closing next Friday. I'm moving to Ashford for a new job. The silence this time was different, longer. What do you mean your condo sold? I listed it in February. I accepted an offer in March. I signed everything. It's done. You didn't tell us. No, I said. I didn't. Why? I thought about how to answer that honestly without turning it into an argument on the phone, which is never a productive place to have an argument with my mother, because I knew it would become a conversation about what I owed everyone before I made the decision, I said. And I needed to make it for myself. Another long silence. So you're just leaving, she said. I have a new job and I'm relocating, I said. Yes, and Derek is going to need to figure out his own situation, I said. I'm not going to be in state. I won't have a property here. My salary is budgeted for my own life in Ashford. I heard her set something down hard on the counter. This is unbelievable, she said. Your brother needs you. My brother is 28 years old, I said. And I love him. But I have been the backup plan for a long time, and I can't keep doing it. I need you to hear that I'm not saying this out of anger. I'm saying it because it's true. She hung up. My father called an hour later. My father, who, as I said, is a man of few words, he used more of them that morning than I think I'd heard from him in a year. The general shape of the conversation was this. I was being selfish. I had always done well because the family had supported me. I didn't point out that this support mostly existed in theory and not in practice. Derek was blood. You don't leave family in a hole like this. What would happen to him? I said gently but clearly that Derek was going to need to look for work and that there were temporary assistance programs and that he was a capable adult who had options even if they weren't comfortable ones. I said I was sorry it felt like abandonment, but that I had given notice at my job, sold my home, and accepted a position 400 miles away, and that I was going. My father said, "What if Derek moved into your place? You don't need it anymore." I want to give him credit for creativity actually, because that one surprised me. "Dad," I said, "I sold it. There is a buyer. There is a closing date. The condo doesn't belong to me anymore in 10 days. You should have told us before you sold it." "It was my property," I said. "I bought it. I paid the mortgage. I made that decision. It's family." "It is not family property," I said. And I said it the way you say something when you've been waiting a long time to say it clearly. I paid for it. Every single payment. It is not family money. It was never family money. It was mine. He didn't have an answer for that. Derek texted me that evening. Just, really? I stared at it for a while. I typed and deleted 3 different responses. I finally sent, "I love you. I hope you land well. This is yours to figure out." He didn't respond. My mother did not speak to me for the 6 days between that phone call and my closing. I moved out of my condo on a Thursday, slept on my friend's couch in her guest room, closed on Friday morning, and drove out of Cloverdale on Saturday with everything I owned in a rented trailer. I want to tell you it was clean. I want to tell you it felt triumphant, like a movie ending where the music swells and the character drives off towards something bright. It was quieter than that. I cried somewhere around mile 40. Not because I was sad exactly, but because of the sheer weight of realizing how long I had been waiting to do something just for myself. 31 years is a long time to be the responsible one without anyone asking whether the responsible one is okay. I have been in Ashford for 7 weeks now. My new apartment is small, but it's mine. I know where the good coffee is. I have a coworker named, I'll call her a friend now, actually, who makes me laugh so hard my face hurts. I have a caseload I care about. I have a routine. My mother called for the first time in 3 weeks, 2 Sundays ago. It was not an apology call, I want to be clear about that. It was more of a reconnaissance call, the kind where she asks how things are going and listens for information. But she called. And I picked up. "Derek, I've heard through my aunt, who has remained neutral and kind through all of this, and who I genuinely adore, found a job at a logistics company. He moved in with 2 roommates. It is not the arrangement he had before, and I imagine it has been an adjustment. But he is figuring it out, which is what I always believed he could do when he had to. The pot roast, by the way. I looked up the recipe my mother uses. I made it myself last weekend, alone in my Ashford kitchen on a Sunday afternoon, when I had nowhere to be and no one expecting anything from me. It was good. I ate it at my own table, in my own time, and I did not dread a single bite. I truly appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. If you've ever been the person your family counts on to the point of counting on you out of your own life, I see you. Drop a comment and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. And if this story hit close to home, I'd love to hear it. I've thought a lot about what actually happened at that dinner table, not the drama of it, but the mechanics. How did we get there? How does a family arrive at a place where one adult child's financial security is treated as a communal resource, available for withdrawal whenever someone else runs short? The honest answer is that it happened slowly, and I helped build it. Every time I covered Derek's security deposit, every time I quietly absorbed a cost that should have been his, I was teaching everyone in that house, including myself, that I would. That was my part in it. I don't say that to be hard on myself, because I think I was doing what felt like love at the time. But there's a version of helping that doesn't actually help. It just delays. And while Derek was being delayed from having to figure things out, I was being delayed from figuring out that my life was not a backup fund for other people's choices. What changed wasn't one moment. It was the accumulation of them. It was standing in my own kitchen, looking at half-packed boxes, and realizing that I had made a decision entirely for myself. The job, the city, the sale, and that the world had not fallen apart. That I was capable of choosing without asking permission. That quiet, private realization was worth more to me than any dramatic confrontation. The pot roast dinner was not my victory. My victory was the 4 months before it when I stopped waiting for the right moment and just started moving. There's something I've come to believe, not because anyone taught it to me, but because I've lived enough of the opposite to know it's true. The clearer you are about what belongs to you, your time, your money, your choices, your future, the less room there is for other people to claim it, not out of cruelty, out of honesty. My condo was not family property. My salary is not family income. Saying that out loud, calmly, without apology, was the most grown-up thing I have ever done. It felt less like confrontation and more like finally telling the truth. Derek is working now. He has roommates. He is managing. I knew he could because he is not incapable. He was just never required to be capable. That distinction matters. Protecting someone from discomfort is not the same as loving them. Sometimes the most generous thing you can do is step back and let a person discover what they are actually made of. I think about the version of me who might have stayed, who might have said yes to the $1,400 a month, indefinitely, with no plan and no end date, who might have canceled Ashford, given up the job, told herself that family comes first, meaning everyone else's needs before her own. That version of me would have resented every single payment. And that resentment would have been its own kind of damage. The life I have now, the small apartment, the new coworkers, the Sunday afternoons that belong entirely to me, I had to choose it. Nobody was going to hand it to me. And I have learned that choosing it once is not enough. You have to keep choosing it, quietly, every day, against every voice that tells you your stability is there to be borrowed. That is not selfishness. That is how you stay whole.